Man up. Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
You gotta eat what you kill. You gotta go out there, you gotta hunt for your meals.
We all have that ability to connect with people, to be that motivational person in somebody's life.
You gotta let people know there's certain lines you don't cross and that there's gonna be consequences if you do.
Man up.
If you are an adult and you are in a relationship, that person's emotions are not your responsibility.
Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
The devil, during slavery, destroyed the masculinity or manhood of the so-called Negro. No man. No man. Right now you got to be trained all over again to be a man.
When someone is obligated to do something, it is binding upon them to do it. And failure to do it causes reaction.
Man up.
Position make you rich. I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life forever.
If that people knew that glorious past, if that people knew that glorious past, if that people knew that glorious past, then they would be more inclined to respect themselves.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
You want to tell me about yourself? Go get your friends. I'll tell you who you are based on who your friends are.
Don't just live and die. That's an ugly existence. Make your life matter, make your life count. Live a life where people can actually mourn you for the things you left behind, not just because you were around and existed.
We need strong black nuclear family.
Yes.
That's what it is. Mother, father, son, daughter, all in the same house with a focus on the family unit as a whole.
We had Tulsa, Atlanta, New Jersey, Detroit. We had Rosewood. We had Black Wall Streets all over.
The Republicans aren't for us, but the Democrats aren't for us either. And we should have no alliance to any political party. We only have alliance to what is in our own best interest.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
At the end of the day, as men in the community, we must stand together and be counted, because people look to us for guidance, leadership, and protection. And if we are not about that business, we are not on our job. Here we have grown-ass man conversations in the spirit of that purpose. Anthony Malcolm, Bobby Drake, Major Gage. We are. This is Manifestations 2020.
Manifestation. Man up. Manifestation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
All right. Welcome to another week of Manifestations 2020. Here chilling with my boy Bobby Drake.
Yeah.
Bobby wanted us to talk about this topic tonight, so we give him all the credit for this topic tonight. It's a very important topic that we do need to talk about and address. And Bobby said, tonight's the night to do it. And I'm definitely going to let him go ahead and spearhead tonight's show. on our show tonight. If you didn't already read the flyer, it's basically parents competing with their children. I think it's one of the most problematic things that has been plaguing our community. But we never addressed the elephant in the room. And tonight we will be addressing that elephant. And Bobby will be pointing out all the things that we need to understand and why we need to address it and what we need to do to curate it in a way where it could be a much healthier atmosphere for our children. Because at the end of the day, what we do is really the direction and the product of what our children is going to reap out of it. So if we aren't creating a healthy atmosphere, then our children is more likely to struggle to get to where they need to get to, opposed to being in a healthy atmosphere where they could be productive and dominant, especially going out into the workforce or into the reality of society. All right. So with that being said, definitely going to take it over to turn it over to Bobby and let him go ahead and address tonight's topic at hand. So
absolutely. So hope everybody's doing well. Hope everyone's staying safe. We had some issues earlier on account of Tropical Storm Debbie popping up. But we're not going to let a little rough weather keep us down for too long. So here we are. And we're pretty much talking about parents competing, parents being jealous of their children. And as crazy as it sounds, we do have parents, unfortunately, who have a negative perspective or see their children in a negative light. And rather than seek to try to, uplift them, to nurture them, to raise them and push them to greatness and to be happy and fulfilled and whole adults, unfortunately, we have some who see their children as the ops, and they move in that way. Basically, parental jealousy occurs when a parent feels envy or resentment towards their child's achievements, relationships, or even it could just be internal attributes about themselves. So maybe they see certain characteristics, certain traits within their child that they don't have or that they wish they had. Rather than being proud or being happy that their child is their 2.0, is the latest and greatest, is the next version of them. Instead, they cover those things and say, well, that should be mine, or I hate that my child has this and I don't have this. This can show itself in different ways. It can be downplaying the child's accomplishments. So early in life, maybe the child is, making the honor roll, they're getting straight A's or whatever. Parent might feel some type of way of that, or it could even be later on in life where the child is receiving promotions at work, they're getting pay raises, they're getting acknowledgments or recognition or praise from people in the neighborhood, at work, wherever the case may be. But anytime something positive is happening in this child's life, the parent is just sitting back there hating, and they're just not showing any sort of love or appreciation towards them. And it might not even be across the board. It's weird like that. So you might be a sibling of multiple other brothers and sisters, and maybe it's not that your parent feels this way about all the children. Maybe for some reason it's just you. So maybe you're the firstborn, maybe you're the middle child, the last child, or whatever. But the parent feels a certain type of way about you. Another way that this can reveal itself is that the parent will show favoritism to the other siblings. So, then it becomes a constant case of, why can't you be like so-and-so? Or, I never had any issues out of your sister, out of your brother. Why do you have to be the black sheep of the family? That kind of thing. And sometimes it can even go as far as the parent taking steps to deliberately sabotage their children's own success. So they do things, whether it's they offset different goals or things that the child's working on. Maybe it's the way the child is working to actually help the family, or even it can just be relationships, or even just the way they speak to the child. But they try to find ways to cut them off at the kneecaps and make sure that you're not going to be great if I can help it. If I have something to say about it, I'm going to do what I can to undermine you, to make sure that you don't become all that I believe that you can be. There's a situation, I believe, I'm not sure if we talked about it on here, but there was a story I heard a while ago about someone who, when he was young, you know, he was in a situation where his mother was jealous of him. She had some other issues going on as well, but his mother was jealous of him. And one of the things that he went to do is he went to a college interview. And it was very important that he went to this interview. It was a big deal because I forgot what the details of it was, but he was going to pretty much get paid for attending this interview. And so family was in bad straits. I think the mother was a user or something to that effect. And so pretty much they were about, his family, his mother, him, and his siblings were about to get evicted out of their apartment if the rent wasn't paid. And so he was intending to use this college money that should be going to him. He was going to use it to go ahead and pay the rent for the family. And his mom intentionally refused to take him to the interview, knowing that this would even affect where she's able to live. But because of the jealousy, because of the resentment that she hasn't made anything out of her life and her son is doing so well, even to a position where he's able to take care of the family partially, she would rather live out in the street, have her children live out in the street, than to be able to say, well, my son is the reason why we were able to keep a roof over our heads. So this thing gets nasty. It can get very deep. It can get very, very toxic. You know, these are very, obviously this is just horrible for anyone to have to contend with, but this is something that doesn't just affect your relationship with your parent, but this is something that can also affect you later on in life and how you deal with other people, how you see yourself, how you deal with the world. Obviously, you know, I don't think it has to be said too much, but this kind of jealousy can definitely affect, you know, your ability to build and establish relationships with other people, because your parents, those are the first people in your life. Your first example of manhood and men is going to be your father. Your first example of womanhood and women are going to be your mother. So how you see the person or the people that your parent represents can be impacted in a great deal through this manner. There's a lot of women who have issues with trusting other women and establishing healthy friendships with other women because they had to deal with a jealous, hating ass mother when they were growing up. And so they don't know how to establish a healthy relationship with women. They don't know what that looks like. And even if they have one, they can't trust it because that first bond, that first connection to other women they should have had was fractured by their mother. Same thing with father. Usually this is a subject that typically deals with women and how mothers relate, but fathers can also fall in that same category as well too. So you have to be mindful, careful about how they relate to each other. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I heard somebody say, I think it was Rizza Islam spoke on it, and he was saying that when the child first interacts with their parents, predominantly their mother, because the mother has custody, you know, of the child. They look at their mother and perceive them as God, right? Because they don't know God. They don't know any other entity but their mother. Like, this is the person that birthed you. This is the person that feed you. So in reality, that's your God until you get the understanding of reality, and then you understand, oh, that's my mother and God is who it is. But initially, as a child, see, you're their creator, you're their God in their eyes. So
Right.
anything that you do to disrupt them, or anything that you do to, you know, set them off in the wrong direction, it pretty much is molded because they see you as the ultimate hierarchy. So I just want to say that.
100, absolutely. And that's devastating because, again, you know, your parents are your source, right? Like you say, it literally half of your genes you get from your mother, half from your father. So where your parents are, how they interact with each other, how they interact with the world, how they interact with you, that's going to have a huge impact on you. Because every single child, it doesn't matter who they are, this is a universal, indisputable fact. Every child wants to make their parents proud. They want to make their parents happy. They want to almost kind of, I guess you could think of it as validate or show their parents that, hey, you know, look at all the good that came from what you did to bring me into this world. Look at how I've shown myself to be of value to you, to the world. And even if the relationship is strained or terrible between a child and a parent, even if the child is old, you know, to some extent, that feeling is still in there. You know, there was a story I read about I forgot his name, but he was a big actor in the 60s. And even though this wasn't a case of jealousy at the same time, it just shows the impact that parents, that they can have on the children. You know, his father owned a business. I think it was manufacturing vacuums or something to that effect. But it was a good job, good career, took care of the family, and he wanted his son to go ahead and follow his footsteps in that. His father, his son, however, was passionate about the arts and acting. It's like, I have a real natural talent for this, whatever. And the father, not trying to necessarily be a hater, but because he didn't see this as something that was going to be profitable, he didn't see it as a way that his son was able to make a living. Father refused to support his son's dreams in going in that direction. It's like, that's ridiculous. You need to do something practical that makes sense. You know, how are you going to take care of yourself? How are you going to take care of a family? You need to do something. Come join the business. You know, I want to pass it down and leave it on to you. I want you to pick this up so you can be successful. And the son, you know, refused to go in that way. And he ended up being one of the most pivotal actors of his generation. And the thing is, he found out years later, after his father passed away, that even though his father never gave him any support, never, you know, gave him I'm proud of you, son, well done, or whatever, his father had a whole bunch of newspaper clippings. And every time his son did something major, he was aware of it. And he was very proud of his son, but he never told his son. And when that news came out, and, you know, a reporter interviewed him about it, and this is a grown dude, grown dude, established big time career, icon. He couldn't even think about his father and their relationship without shedding tears, because he's like, you know, the one thing I always wanted, no matter what, was just to hear my father say, you know, that he's proud of me. Right. So despite him getting all that praise, getting all that acclaim and all the accolades from his peers in the industry, whatever, you see that just simple sentiment of I'm proud of you from one person, his father, would have made all the difference in his life. And he carried around that all those years in his chest, whatever. So that's how important it is to, that's the impact that parents have on their children, on their offspring. So when you have a parent who's jealous of you, all that gets completely tossed upside down. And that can be devastating on your self-esteem, how you see yourself, your place in the world, how you see other people, how you treat other people, and even the kind of people that you're drawn to, right? Because we know that we tend to go ahead, especially in significant others, we tend to be drawn to people who remind us of our parents. So, you know, you tend to seek out women who, in one sense or another, are kind of like your mother. You tend to seek out a man who, in one sense or another, is sort of like your father. And if you have like abusive parents, or you have jealous parents, whatever, it can be very easy to find a significant other, or have a track record of significant others that embrace a lot of the negative attributes of your parents, if that's the case.
Also, definitely. We do want to, in that, since we're talking about fathers and sons, I think this is a good video for the people to get a good glimpse of what that looks like.
Narcissistic parents see their kids as competition and become jealous of their kids as well. So if you're new here, I'm a diagnosed narcissist. I talk about narcissistic personality disorder. So I have 3 kids. My oldest son is 13 years old, and I remember distinctly before therapy, like literally being jealous of him for having a dad. And I'm his dad, because I grew up with a, you know, pretty much non-existent father. Like, aren't you lucky to have a dad teaching you all this stuff about life? Look at you. And I'm his dad. How weird is that, y'all? It's weird, ain't it? But a lot of times you see narcissistic mothers keep holding their daughters back. You see narcissistic fathers holding their sons back and things like that. So a lot of times, no matter what you do, it'll never be enough to satisfy your narcissistic parent that's in competition with you. Hey, Dad, I got a 93 on my test. That's an A. What happened to the other 7 points? You could have had an A+. Narcissistic parents will belittle you, will hold you back, will keep you from accomplishing your goals, because that would mean that you go.
All right. So what did you get out of that video?
No, he's very spot on about that being something that you have to contend with. One of the things, and we speak a lot on the show about achievement and setting goals, and to have plans that you're working towards, and to make something yourself, not just for the purposes of making money or getting recognition, but how important it is for your own development to be out here achieving, to not just live a useless life and want people to show you respect or whatever because you exist.
Right.
But it's important to do these things because they help build you and make you a better person overall. If you're not striving toward anything, if you're not trying to achieve or make things happen, then what's going to happen is you're not going to encounter hardship and difficulties. And those things are important in life because when you face hardship, when you face stress, when you face difficulties and adversities, the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to see who you really and truly are. Right? One of the things that I love, and I'll keep saying this, one of the things that I've loved about jumping back into the martial arts, I used to do when I was a kid, and I stopped when I was younger, then I got back into it recently as an adult. And one of the things that I love the most about doing this is that it constantly shows me who I am. It tells me the truth no matter what. It doesn't matter what I think about myself, my skills, my comprehension, my abilities, whatever. It doesn't matter what I think. When I get out there and I'm sparring with somebody or I'm going at it with somebody else, I get to see exactly who I am in that moment. I can't lie to myself, right? So I have this way that I see myself, and now I'm going to get to either see, okay, am I telling, is what I see who I actually am? Am I better than I actually thought I was? Or am I seeing that I got a lot of work to do? And so when I'm seeing that, when I'm in that position, I'm able to go ahead and now set goals. All right, so this is where I think I am. This is where I want to be, but this is where I actually am. So now I'm seeing the distances. So now I can make intelligent plans. Okay, so what do I need to get better? What do I need to do to improve? What do I need to do to get myself from where I am to where I thought I was? And then to get from there to where I want to be. Yeah. That's just one side of the field. So you can have that in your own career, in your profession. If you have certain goals, you want to be the first to do such and such, or you want to get a promotion to a different level, you want to take on more responsibility. Maybe it's a new skill or a hobby that you want to pick up, whatever the case may be. There's a lot of different things out there. But if you're not striving towards anything, if you're not getting any accolades that you can hang your hat onto, one of the things that's very likely to happen is you're going to be jealous of others who are doing those things. So when you start hearing people get praised, wow, he did a good job, or he's the first in his family to do such and such, or oh, that's amazing. I can't believe, she just got married and, they're having their third child. They look so happy and so healthy, whatever. When you see people reaching milestones and you're just stuck there in the mud, that's a real way how you can get that hating spirit and that jealous spirit activated. You're like, well, this person ain't nowhere. They're not that big. I could do that if I wanted to. And that's where that stuff comes out in your spirit. So one of the best ways to kind of curb that or to shut that spirit off is to make sure that you're doing things that you can be proud of for yourself, where you can go ahead and get that recognition from yourself first, so you can feel good about yourself. And then others will see your efforts, so they can go ahead and give you your props as well, too. And so you don't have to hate on anybody because you're out there getting it in your own way, in your own area yourself.
Well said. There is a video that I want to show that I think it explains a lot of what's going on now. There is a basic bonding between parents and children that are becoming more estranged as the day goes on. I'm not sure if it's all due to social media, the social construct that we have today versus before, or just a combination of just ideologies, views, and everything like that just clashing and not being more compatible with your parents in the long run. So I just want to show this. This is actual statistical data that was on the it was on TV, and they also had a therapist there to explain a lot of this as well. So let's watch that real quick.
Thanksgiving's coming up. Maybe you'll have some of these discussions or have some of these feelings. And Time Magazine recently had a story that more adult children than ever before are estranged from their parents. What's causing this, and what's the solution to mending fences? We've got family therapist Rachel Glick joining us to discuss children. And Rachel, you were saying you were unaware of that article, but you recently wrote one on the same subject.
Yes. It's been going on for some time that I'm seeing more and more estrangement happening. And there's really a shifting in values in our society from the millennials, like people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. And they have a different idea about the power dynamic in the relationship in terms of them establishing more of the boundaries that they want to have in a relationship and the quality of a relationship they want to have.
Are they the ones cutting off
Yes.
this? Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe too critical, or what? Do you want to make a statement?
Sometimes it depends. People have different views on that. I think balance is always the best to try to find middle ground. But there are a lot of people these younger generations are really finding that they are not okay with some of the cultural norms of how their parents have been relating with them.
There has been a dramatic shift in the past 50 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's like an expectation that the older generation now fit in with some of the more psychologically informed ways of relating, which can relate to boundaries, it can relate to how they support them or not support them.
What are some of the things that happen that create these divisions?
Well, some of the first one is about boundaries, where the older generation, the parent in this case, is getting involved with being critical or unsolicited advice about their partner, unsolicited advice about how they parent or their body or their choices. And that creates separation. And that's a big one. And some of the other ones are just, sometimes there's some toxicity that can go on that carried on from childhood, that now as adults, they don't want that in their life anymore.
So how do you create empathy on both sides so that these people can come together?
Well, I really spend a lot of time in my therapy office with adult children and their parents, either one or the other or both together, and really trying to have healing conversations about this, keeping in mind what each are capable of, what they're ready for to handle, but trying to keep the defensiveness out. It's a powerful thing for a parent to allow the child to express themselves of what it was like for them growing up. It's a very hard thing to do, to be present for that, but giving them a chance to have a voice and really having empathy for what it was like for them. And then also having the child understand and hear the parent about their feelings and their needs. And then you really want to create a new reality going forward. How are we going to do this together and not dwell on the past, but what can we do going forward that both are going to feel comfortable and safe and feel good inside themselves as you connect?
It's like having a summit and coming up with an agreement and both signing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
You say
That's the goal.
You say don't do it alone. Don't try, because there's so many buttons that people punch.
Exactly.
And
I really recommend it being facilitated, because we think we're better listeners than we really are, and a lot of things can get triggered, and then it can go downward so quick.
All right, so I did want to highlight something, and then I'll turn it over to you, Bobby. But I was telling people before that as you get older as a child, based on your parents, you start to realize that how important boundaries are. And I know when it comes to male children, the sons out there, it is very important for you to have boundaries on your mother. I was going to make a post the other day. I just took my mother to the airport, and I have a wonderful relationship with my mother. And I think a lot of times people always say, women will say, watch how the guy treats his mother, because that tells you everything. And that's partially true, but you're not telling the whole story. You're only telling partial of the story. Partial of the story is how he does treat his mother and the women in his family. But also the other part of it is also, what are the boundaries that he have for these women in his life as well? Because you can have a great relationship with your mother. People see that. You bend your back for your mother. Everybody is like, yeah, it's all good. Women like, oh my gosh, he treats women so great. And then when you get into a relationship with him, and you're established now, you're moved your way on into marriage, he selected you for marriage, you're in this marriage together, this union, and then all of a sudden, his mom now is in competition with you for the son, which is your husband. Her son, your husband. Now there's a tug of war going on. Now that same admiration you had that he does everything for his mom, he listens to his mom, is now problematic for you because now he didn't establish no boundaries for his mother. So now his mother already knows that. So now she jumping over the line and jumping in your personal space and in your livelihood and in your home. And that's why you have all these movies out here that show you the rift between the daughter-in-law and the mother. Oh, you know, the mother come and be like, say something in front of and just constantly disrespect his wife. And he's like, Mom, what you got to do? And he has so much grace for his mother. And the minute his wife says, hey, you need to put some boundaries, and then he's like snapping on her, like, who are you to talk to me about my mother? This is my mother. And that's a bad situation for a woman to be in because the guy never established healthy boundaries on both sides, right? Because there's sometimes that the wife will get very disrespectful and cross those boundaries over to the mother as well. So there's on both sides, but as a man, you have to make sure that you put the boundaries down. And one movie that I did like that showed that, but it was more towards the child's mother, was Why Did I Get Married, right? Shout out to Jaleel White. I mean, not Jaleel White. What's his oh gosh, Michael J. White. So shout out to Michael J. White for playing his role. You know, he was a football player. Then he ended up getting with his wife and having her start her own business. And then he had this ratchet baby moms that was just causing problems between him and his wife. And I remember towards the end of the movie, he got some straightening because she was doing this and he was going back and forth and sleeping with her. It was just all chaotic. But it was at one point that the wife, you know, she did some stuff, she cheated back, she gave the same energy at that. And then he realized, listen, I love my wife, let's start off fresh. And by starting off fresh, he went out there and he got in the face of his wife because they was going at each other. He had to drop off the kids. He got in the face of his wife and he told his wife, listen, this is my child's mother. This is the boundaries you're going to do. You're going to respect that. And that's it. Then he told his baby moms, listen, this is my wife. This, you know, when the children are not with you, they're with her. You guys are going to respect each other because the children are the ones that are suffering from this. And you guys are acting like little kids instead of being grown adults and knowing how to function with each other. And I thought that was so dope for him to say that, and also for it to be highlighted in that movie. And, you know, like I say, those are the type of Tyler Perry movies that I don't mind watching because that is a great issue that is very complex in our situation, is a man out here that do have multiple children in different households and showing that, listen, it doesn't pay to be very nasty to each other. Let's collectively work together for the benefit of these children. So I thought that was very powerful. And it's also in life, it has that same thing as well. So going back to my mother, like me and my mother have a great relationship. What people don't understand is that I have boundaries on my mother and I have boundaries on my sisters. All the women in my life, I have boundaries. And it's very imperative for you to have boundaries. Boundaries doesn't mean anything. It's just giving protection on both sides. It's protecting your space and your mental health on your side. And it's also protecting your family members as far as, listen, focus on what you have to focus on and not too much on what I got going on, because I can handle over here. Don't need to push your nose in my business. I'll let you know what you need to know. Other from that, don't poke over here. We got everything going on over here. And let me tell you, it's the most powerful thing when a man can establish boundaries, especially on his mother. And I had a friend, and I told this to my friend because that boundary caused my friend to have a divorce. He may not agree with it, but I'm telling you, that boundary caused my friend to have a divorce. And I remember my ex, my mother didn't like one of my exes. And initially, my mother gave off that vibe, initially off rip, without even trying to figure out what was going on with my ex at that time. And because she made that that initial energy so bad, it pretty much downplayed a lot of stuff in the relationship. Like I found out later why she didn't feel like she was secured in a relationship, because a lot of people don't understand that if your mother doesn't vibe with your mate, it makes your mate feel some type of way. And that's why a lot of people always praying like, man, I hope my mother gets along with my mate, you know. And it's vice versa with it comes to the women and their fathers, you know. Women praying, man, I hope my father accepts my guy, you know what I'm saying? Because once they don't, it sends a rift, like, it feels uncomfortable. Now you got to go to the family functions, and then your dad don't like your boyfriend, so it's a little rift between your boyfriend and your dad, and that can go out of hand depending on how egotistical both men are. Are they mature enough to hash things out and try to be reasonable and work things through for the love of the daughter, or they're just like, nah, we gonna go to blows and fight every time they see each other. When it comes to your mother, is your mother gonna be throwing blows with your girl, or is your mother and your girl gonna sit down and say, you know what, we can be cordial every time we see you. I ain't gotta like you, but I will be cordial with you. But when you have both parents like your mate, their father loves your boyfriend, and your mother loves your mate, your girl, your wife. It's a beautiful dynamic. It's a beautiful dynamic, So I just wanted to share that part where it comes in with the boundaries, because they said that a lot of rifts go between parents, because a lot of times a lot of these children, they hear stories, they see it, and they want to, breaking generational curses, something that's so talked about in our generation, breaking those generational curses of toxic behavior from our parents and grandparents. And we want to be on the path to break it so we don't pass it on to our children. So just in the process of that, sometimes parents that are hard-headed, that don't want to change, it can be like, well, if you can't accept me for who I am, then you don't need to be around me. And then as the child is gonna be like, no matter what age, he's like, yo, toxic is toxic. If you're gonna do that, my boundary is I won't be around you as much, Ma, or I won't be around you as much, Pops. That's the stance you're gonna be. If you want to change and you want to, come into the new life and help to break the generational curse and be more healthy and change your ways, then hey, I'll be more involved with you. And sometimes, we talk about egos, and a lot of people don't highlight that women have just as big egos as men. We always talk about the men ego, but not the women ego. But that is a very critical part as well. So when you have the family flow to be conducive and to just flow together, it's a very great and wonderful thing. And I think a lot of children are out here understanding things because now they have the access to the internet, and they're seeing how, therapy is more fluidly throughout the community now. Back then it was like, hey, you had therapy, you was crazy or something, or you're damaged or anything like that. Now we already know therapy can be healthy because you can go to therapy with no issues just to prevent you from getting on that side of the track. So it's a lot of open-mindedness that's happening now, a lot of things that are changing and getting rid of. And I see that can be a rift, but it's also a great thing when the whole family can get together and change together and create this healthy atmosphere for not only their children and the bond between them, but also to open up a healthier atmosphere for the grandchildren as well. And I pass that off to you.
Facts. Yeah, I've said time and again that there's a lot of things that we can criticize. And let me read what Monet said real quick. Hey y'all, my ex mother-in-law was horrible for 8 years. We divorced, unfortunately, but it played a big part. He couldn't put her in her place, and she would make him feel guilty for living his life. Yeah, I know somebody that actually went through that same thing. It wasn't just with the mother, but they had a lot of issues in their marriage. And one of the key issues that they had, and I'm not going to say that this caused anything because as an adult, you're responsible for you. Nobody can make you do anything that you don't want to do.
Correct.
With that being said, there are certain things that can inspire you or can motivate you to go in certain directions. And one of the big issues that they had in the relationship was that the person I knew did not do a good job of setting boundaries between the people in their life and the significant other. And what would happen is, somebody on their side would say something or do something that would upset or piss off or irritate the significant other. And that person would never say anything to address it because they didn't want to ruffle any feathers or upset those people over there. So basically, in other words, you have a whole person that you're married to over here. That's your first responsibility. The person you're married to, your spouse, that is your primary obligation and your primary responsibility. But they were more concerned with making sure that the other people were good. The other people weren't offended. The other people weren't hurt or felt violated or felt like you were choosing them over them as compared to their spouse. And so that led them, that inspired the significant other to be increasingly disrespectful and to take other steps against them. And that really led to some big flare-ups in the relationship. So like you said, it's important to set those boundaries in place as well with your family members. But one of the things that I love about this generation, there's some things that you can never criticize. But one of the things that I do respect and I like is the lack of willingness to just go along with the okie doke. There's a lot of and I'm partly in. I'm sort of like in like a mix. I'm partly from the older generations, but I'm also a mix of the young generations as well. And I love the rejection of the whole "this is the way it's always done" or "do as I say, not as I do," just blindly go along with whatever because I say so mindset. I'm a traditionalist. There's a lot of traditions that I think they're important to have and cling to in their work. There's no reason to ditch them. But I don't think that just because something has always been done a certain way, that means that you're supposed to stick with it. I think that everything should be constantly evaluated and reevaluated. And if it still works, if it's getting the results that we want, stick with it. Respect it. Let it do what it's supposed to do.
And you don't have to throw. No, I was going to say you don't have to throw it all away. Sometimes you can do a revision of it. You get what I'm saying? You can revamp it a little bit. Add kind of like I love the drumline, theme of the movie was you take the old and you have some of the new, you mix it together and it's a great formula.
And that's how it's supposed to be honest with you. We're not supposed to just be necessarily throwing everything out that's old and putting new things in there. One of the things, for better or for worse, one of the things you can definitely say about things that were done a certain way that are older traditions, for better or for worse, is that it survived.
Yeah.
So you have something, even if it wasn't the best per se, those ways of operating brought y'all this far. Because when that was created, when that was the new thing on the block, whatever, There were other things that were out there too, and they didn't make the cut. But this managed to take you to from that point to this point now where you are. So there's got to be some respect that's put on that. So the things that don't make sense, toss them out. If they can be edited, maybe they just need a quick fix on it. Go ahead and do that. But if it's altogether rotten or garbage, toss it out and go ahead and try new things. And these generations, they're not just simply saying, well, mama said this, daddy said this, we're going to do. No, I say, nah. If it don't make sense, I'm not going to be idiot and stick with it. And that's caused a lot of conflicts with older heads who don't have that same mindset. They're not very progressive, and they just want to stick with things just because they're old and played out. And I love that the younger generations are finding ways to try and do things better. They actively want to do things better. They want to evolve and push the needle. They want to move things forward. And that's good because, again, just because something's old, again, doesn't mean that it's good. And it's unless you want to stay in the crypt, you want to stay in the tomb or something, those are the only things that are good no matter what. So if you're alive, if you're living, you're trying to progress, you need to make sure that your traditions, whether old or new, that they fit your dynamic. And if it can't grow with you, then you put it to the side. So they're doing things differently. The way they're raising their children now is different. They're trying to be more conscientious. They're treating their children more like people as opposed to just pets. Just go over here, jump, sit, fetch, do whatever. They're asking them for their input. And they're really doing a better job of developing their children's autonomy and self-respect and self-esteem and making them feel more a part of this process. Because the reality is, when you're a parent, the truth is you're actually not raising children. I know that we all say this, and it's very easy to get in that mindset, but the truth is you're not raising children. You have children, but you're not raising children. You're raising adults. Your goal is to take this child and to give them the wisdom, the nurturing, the love, the insight, the protection, the guidance, whatever they need to take them from being this little baby person that can wipe their own ass to being a functional, responsible, productive adult that is making something of themselves and are then able to go out now and to replicate that same process with their family. So we're not raising children, we're raising adults. And so you have to be mindful of that process. And there was no guidebook that told anybody this, but this generation has picked up on that and they're starting to move with that. And I think that the children that are going to result from this are going to be a lot better than the adults that came before them, which is the goal.
Yeah,
that's what we want. We want our children to be better than us. You should want, if you're not a jealous parent, you should want your children to be everything that you weren't able to be. You know, when I have my children, I want my sons, I want my daughters, I want them to be me version, forget 2.0, version 8.0. I want them to be able to achieve and do stuff that I never thought was even possible. I want them to be wildly successful, happy. I want them to be breaking all kind of barriers and trailblazing and doing things that, you know, when I was their age, I didn't even think was a possibility, right? So it's important that you have that spirit and you cultivate that spirit within yourself. And that's one of the ways you go, by looking to see, by being future-minded, not being stuck in the past, but looking to the future.
Definitely. I want to show this video right quick because you did say something that I think this video would highlight a bit. Here's a video right here.
At all. I'm telling you. They'll literally have, let me tell you something. I got my first job, finished school. I was moving out at 21 years old. It's just me and my mother in the house. And she's like, what are you doing? I was like, well, I'm going to, get my own apartment in a couple months. And she was like, get your own apartment, move out for what? And I was like, because I'm 21 and I have them. You don't make that much money to start. I mean, what you want to move out for? I was like, well, damn, because I want to be independent, give you your own space. I mean, no. She wanted me to be dependent upon her for the rest of my damn life. Yep. There's a lot of family members who are narcissistic. That's why you fell for the narcissist. It was already in your wiring as a child. It was already in there for when you were a kid. You were used to the ups and downs, the highs and lows, and the push and pull, and walking on eggshells, and you performing for your mother and your father, and you're trying to get love and earn love. When love is supposed to be given just from the heart. Why I gotta perform to get love from you? You had to perform for the narcissist to get love. You had to do and be what they wanted you to be to get a little breadcrumb of love from them, right? You could never get love from a person.
All right, and I want to just play this other video real quick as well, to show, just to piggyback off of that.
Are envious of their children, and here are some signs to look out for. They minimize your success and they do not celebrate your accomplishments. They talk about the life that they gave you that they didn't have growing up. This is a big one, especially for those of you in immigrant families. You feel like they're in constant competition with you, whether that be with your looks, the car you drive, the home you buy, the money you make. Beware of those. They interfere in your friendships and in your relationships, and they might even tell your partner that you're not good enough and that they should leave you. In group settings, they might constantly seek attention and have all the focus on them. You might find that they need to be the center of attention. And they endlessly remind you of all of your downfalls and why.
All right, so definitely wanted to show those two videos, and you can elaborate more on that, Bobby.
Yeah, one of the things that you see commonly with people like this is narcissism. So that has become the buzzword, the vocab word of the year now. Everywhere people look, they say narcissism this, narcissism that. That's a narcissist. You're a narcissist, whatever. At the same time, I think even though that usage of that word has gotten wildly out of control, I do think that there is a level of narcissism that has been cultivated in a lot of people where you may not have a whole bunch of full-blown textbook diagnosable narcissists, but there's a lot of people who are low-key, lightweight diet narcissists who really believe that it's all about themselves. And one of the things that can contribute to that is being raised in an environment where you're made to believe that it's all about you, that you're the center of the universe, and that everything's supposed to bow down to you, what have you. And once you grow up into an adult, you never really actually lose that. It's like it's no different from having a child who you told, the Santa Claus, there's the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, whatever. And, they believe this with all their heart. They believe that some fat dude comes down a chimney and drops off gifts. They believe Peter Pan and Tinkerbell come through their window and leave quarters and dollars for their teeth or whatever, and all this nonsense. But if you grow up your whole life and no one ever corrects you and says, yeah, that's not true, that's not real, whatever, you will be an adult who still believes in Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. And it sounds crazy, but you've lived your life based off this information that was false, and no one taught you differently. So as silly as it may sound, how would you know that this isn't real if no one ever bothered telling you, if you never bumped into this information? So it's no different with this. If you were raised to basically be a narcissist, you were raised to believe that you're the center of the universe, everything's supposed to bow down and kiss your ass and, cater to you, you're going to be an adult who becomes a narcissist. And that's also going to drip into other areas, including the way you parent. So if you don't have a whole lot to show for yourself again, and you have a child that's doing things that are successful, especially in ways that you're not, you're going to feel some type of way. So I like those different things that Sister pointed out about the different signs of a narcissist or a jealous parent, because that's very important. And I think more people have experienced that than would care to admit that this is what they've experienced. And it's not comfortable. It's not something that you feel good about. I mean, no one wants to think about their parents in that light, but it is what it is. And that's also another reason why I like what you mentioned before about how growing up, we see our parents as our gods until we're able to branch out and get a better understanding. But that's the closest that we could connection that we can make. We just know that we came from mom and dad, and that's the closest concept that we have of that. But that's also one of the reasons why it's important as parents, again, if we want to have healthy children who grow up into healthy adults, we have to sever certain mentalities and mindsets. You shouldn't want your children to view you as a God that's infallible, that is never wrong. One of the things that it's very difficult, especially for parents that have old school mentalities, is you have to get for this. And again, it's not about you; it's about your children. You have to develop the ability to go ahead and acknowledge your children. Hey, guess what? I was wrong. Or I told you to do such and such. That wasn't right. I should have done this. I shouldn't have told you this, what have you. It's important to let them know that you can make mistakes, that you're not perfect. Because when you go around and you toss that on you, and I know especially if you came with like a Caribbean household, that statement all by itself is blasphemy. You have to understand, if your children don't have that ability, what's going to happen is your children might take that one direction and develop that same mindset where they can never be wrong. And how many of us have dealt with a significant other? We were dating somebody and they were never wrong. You can't bring up anything. Accountability is a curse word to them. You can't say anything. You can't correct them because they're not wrong. Where'd they get that from? Parents. Mom and dad weren't wrong. I'm an adult now, so I'm never wrong. Or worse yet, you can put insecurity in your children when now they're always second guessing and doubting themselves, where they know that mom and dad is wrong or off, but they believe in their parents. They still see them as a god. So instead of recognizing, well, they're tripping, I know I'm right, they might interpret that to think, well, maybe I don't know anything, or maybe I don't have what it takes to make decisions or come to proper analysis on my own. Maybe I'm not as ready as I thought I am. And that's going to weaken your children's self-esteem and self-confidence. And you don't want that. Again, you want your child to be able to be out there and to be competent, to feel confident navigating the world, to be self-reliant. They can solve their own problems. If they don't have answers, they know how to find them, and they can really depend and rely on themselves. Because that's also going to trickle down. What happens if this child who has these insecurities, they get a family of their own, and now they don't feel comfortable or confident with their ability to take care of their significant other or raise their children?
That's true. I think one of the biggest things that helps with is accountability, because that's what we're talking about, right? We're talking about being accountable for your actions, even with your children, and showing them how you can own up to it and be accountable for your bad behavior, your actions that you knew you had to correct. And showing that in front of them now lets your child know it's okay for you to be accountable for your actions. It's okay for you to know that, hey, you stepped to the left, that was wrong, but now I'm stepping to the right in the right direction. When we talk about accountability, one thing that I love to show, because people always have, it's always a rift between Malcolm X and Dr. King. And one thing I always tell people, I've read books. I've read so many books on Dr. King. I've read books that Coretta Scott has written about intel and things about Dr. King that we didn't know. And one of the most credible and courageous things that Dr. King has ever done, and it's one of the highest forms of accountability that I ever seen a public leader display, was the fact that he went and did an interview in the church and he was crying. He was talking to a white interviewer and he was crying. And the reason he was crying, because he felt bad about the hold your hands, I have a dream speech. And he said, I think I led my peoples in a burning building. And at that moment, he took accountability and he cried on it. Like you could really look at the eyes watering up, because he never wanted to put his people in harm's way. He never wanted to do that. He was just like many other of our ancestors, just trying to figure out how to maneuver and get our peoples on track in the right direction. And by him just doing that was courageous enough for me to hold him on this iconic level, because I have yet to see anybody to even go to that level of correcting themselves. And then when you look at it, as far as people that's downplaying Dr. King, I tell people all the time, this man knew how powerful his wife was. And this is one of the major things that a lot of guys, you guys really have to be very, very, very selective about who you make your wife. Remember, Dr. King was involved before he switched out that woman and got with Coretta Scott. He knew how powerful this woman was. He understood that he needed this type of woman in his back, in his corner, by his side, in order for him to make the major legacy moves that he made. And I say that because knowing that he had somebody so powerful, had 4 children from this woman, he says, look, I know I'm not going to make it to the promised land with you, because he was being the sacrificial lamb. He knew that he got the threats. He knew he was going to die trying to march to Washington to go get the 40 acres and the mule for us. And he says, you know what? I'm not going to make it to that land with y'all, but I'm still going to continue to try to get you to that land, even if I have to sacrifice my life, which he did. But he left behind 4 children, but they were with a powerful woman as Coretta Scott King. And it's very important for fellas to level up with a woman in that caliber, that as men, we sacrifice our lives for our family, our wives, our children, and our community. And you don't want to sacrifice your life leaving behind your loved ones with somebody that isn't up to par to carry out the same orders that you would have carried out while you were here. I think that's very powerful for men to know how to level up with the right woman. When you're at a certain age that we're at, you don't need to be out there messing with gutter women. And we talked about that before, plenty of times on here. There's women in your phone that don't need to be in your phone. You need to, if you're in the late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you should already be married. But if you're in the late 30s, 40s, 50s, you shouldn't be out here trying to roam this whole area, or even your community or your city. You shouldn't be roaming out there. You should be grounded with somebody, whether you're married or not, because if you don't want to get married, hey, that's on you. But if you have a solid person and that's what y'all agreed to really live out the rest of y'all lives together being solid, that's fine. But find that person and ground with them, especially, we talk about what's coming ahead. It's very important for y'all to get together and establish these households now, because inflation ain't no joke. You ain't gonna survive by yourself. And I don't care what type of dude you is or what type of money you make. When they do this switch over and they start shutting down these banks, and then they have these immigrants coming in here and undermining for cheaper pay, and you start seeing that everything isn't the same anymore, your mate is going to be the one to carry you. You guys have to form like Voltron. This is going back to the cartoon days if we want to, talk some real stuff. The Thundercats, the Voltrons. Yep. This is what they was out there putting out there like that. The Power Rangers. They were good individuals, but when they say shit, morph time, and then motherfuckers morph up and become this big ass, thing, and that's destroying everybody. And that's what it is. You're more powerful together. We always say that united we fall. is united we stand, divided we fall. You know, and that's the powerful anthem, because in order for us to be as powerful as we are, we have to unite as a front. Your household is your united front. It starts with your solid foundation. And then when you guys unite in the household, that's how you operate and move outside of your house. And that's why back in the days, during the Jim Crow era, they were able to accomplish and achieve so much stuff financially and everything with little bit of resources. And here we are, 2024, got all the resources, and yet we're regressing. Everything that they fought hard to get in that little bit of space they could get it, with Jim Crow on top of KKK blatant racism, and they were able to make buildings, build hospitals, build banks, do everything. And then all of a sudden, all of that crushes down to now where we're regressing and we're losing everything. Everything that they had, we're pretty much done lost it. You know, and that's because we're not united, we're not on the code of conduct, and we don't understand how powerful we can be once we have that united front. But it starts with the household, and we're so divided on a statistical level. That's why we are losing so much, because we don't have that strong stance like our ancestors did. So I'll land my plane with that and hand back over to you, Bob.
Now, the time is we're really here, to be honest now, but the time is coming, the way things are moving, and it's not even a political direction as much, because politics, for the most part, is its own thing. But like I believe it was John Dewey who said, politics is the shadow that's cast by big business. So business, the companies, Wall Street, those entities are the ones that really dictate what direction politics is going to go into. And that's true. It doesn't matter if it's Republicans and conservatives or Democrats or liberals or moderates or whatever the case may be. Politics reacts to what the business world is doing. Plain and simple. And the direction that the business world is going into, everything from finances to taxes to insurance and everything is moving towards the direction where it's going to call for families to survive and make it.
Correct.
Not a little hobnob, broken together Lego piece jigsaw type mess, but actual legitimate established families. All right. We're moving away from a public system where there's a lot of public resource, a lot of public support, all these different things that we've known of for the longest time and gotten accustomed to using, and move into more of a private system. So in other words, there's going to be less handouts, less public support. In order to get by, it's going to have to be based on what you and yours are able to put together and establish. And if you're single out here, and not just single, but if you are the single type where you are unable to go ahead and cooperate, you're unable to be pleasant, you're unable to get along with the opposite sex, you're a misogynist, you're a misandrist, you have a whole bunch of negative attributes that makes that no one in the right mind would want to be with you, you're unwilling to change, you lack accountability, all these things that are going to be an impediment to you being in a functional, healthy relationship, it's going to get bad for you. And so that's also going to impact your family as well. It's also going to impact your children as well. So again, what kind of world are you sending your children out into? And most importantly, are they equipped for that world? And if you're a jealous parent, if you're out here call yourself competing with your child, and you should have already been established, already have your own stuff set up in place, and now you're trying to hobble your children, well, you can forget about their chance of success, because if they are able to succeed, it's going to be a long shot. And even if they are able to succeed, there's going to be so much baggage that they're bringing into the future because of you that they're not even going to be able to properly enjoy that and make the most out of it. So it's very important that you go ahead and take those steps to remedy that. And if you are a person who's seeing this and listening to this, and some of these things sound familiar, even if you don't want to acknowledge it, you know that your children have said certain things or people are pointing these things out about you. Understand that it's never too late to change or fix things until that person is no longer there. There was an article that was an interview that was done in the New York Times with Julia Louis Dreyfus. She's the star of Veep on HBO, but I think she's most commonly known to everybody as Elaine from Seinfeld. And she spoke about going to therapy with her 87-year-old mother and how powerful it was for them. And she said, I went to therapy with my mother because she said something to me. It might have been my dad's birthday, my dad who had passed, and she was remembering that it was his birthday. And she said, I'm sure you're thinking about your dad. And I know there was stuff there that I wish we'd been able to deal with or talk about when you were younger, because my parents were divorced. I wish we'd had a chance to do that. And I said, oh, well, Mom, what's keeping us? Why don't we do it? And so off we went, and it was very helpful. So much like Dr. King, this is a woman who's 87 years old. She's practically on the way out the door. No disrespect. But she had this reflection and she had this regret. She's like, I wish when, your father was alive, we took the time out to have this difficult conversation and talk about whatever these things were with you, and we didn't get that chance. Correct. And the daughter was open and said, well, why don't we go to therapy and do that? And so as an 87-year-old woman, she gave her daughter, probably, I don't know if she's still alive or not, but she gave her daughter one of the last best gifts that she could give. And she gave her clothes. So she could have just said, well, I'm 87 years old. My daughter's a grown woman. She doesn't need this from me or whatever, or let her just deal with it on her own, which a lot of people do. But she had the courage to say, you know what? My daughter made it clear that, this is something that she would like to do. She's open to it. Let me go ahead and be a parent and do that for my child. And here her daughter is saying, that this was one of the most impactful, significant things that my mother's done for me. This was a huge, huge thing for me. It was very helpful. And so, just like Dr. King, he's afraid that he led his people in a burning house, and he could have just easily kept that to his chest. Correct. He's a high-profile person. You have all kind of eyes on you. You have your enemies that are looking to, to discredit you and unseat you, both within the camp and outside the camp. It could have been very easy to just recognize, dang, I messed up, and just take the L privately. But he recognized that leadership isn't just, looking good for the camera, but it's also about the low moments as well, too, and being present and showing the whole 360 of it. And so he was able to sit there and cry and show that, I'm affected by this. He didn't say, yeah, my bad, y'all, we messed up. We'll do right next time. No, he showed how remorseful he was, that he was afraid that his life's work had been leading his people the wrong way. And he cried about that. And he acknowledged what the issue was. I feel like I led my people in a burning house. He took that step. If you're a parent, you're a leader. Right? You're a leader of your children. And leadership calls you to sacrifice and do uncomfortable things. And the best leaders are the ones who are able to say, I messed up, or there's something I can do better. And instead of just sitting back on and just letting it go, they take the steps to go ahead and make it better. So no matter how much damage the relationship may have been done, if you've sabotaged your children, if you've been speaking negatively to them, you've been undercutting their relationships, you've been hating on their accomplishments, but trying to downplay them, you've tried to set them back in life, you may have done a lot of damage, and maybe your children aren't open to it. But if you want to write the slate, then it's important that you go ahead and you take the steps now. Now, we've spoken about forgiveness on the show before, and we've established that just because you apologize doesn't mean that you're going to be forgiven. Right? That may never happen. But the important thing is that forgiveness cannot happen without you. So if it's going to happen, you got to take the first step to get the ball rolling. And maybe your children might not forgive you initially because they think it's just another setup. They think it's another trap. But if you continue to put yourself out there and say, hey, I'm still sorry, I want to make this right, and try to rebuild that trust, they see, maybe something's different. Maybe my prayers are finally answered. Maybe mom is finally ready to stop the bullshit. Maybe dad recognized that he's truly wrong, and give them that chance, because it took a long time to get to this position. So you can't expect it's going to be fixed overnight. But if you keep showing up that you're willing to do the work, you're willing to make amends for it, that's going to go a long way, letting your children know that, hey, you know what? They can trust you. Maybe we can get things back on track. And even if they decide, you know what, nah, I'm good, I don't need that, I don't ever want to deal with you again, that's fine. But as a parent, you've given the last best gift that you can give your child in that situation. You've given your child an option.
Mm-hmm.
So now you can say in your heart that it's not that my child didn't have the chance to get things right, or I never had a chance to get things right with my child. You can honestly say, well, I tried, I did the best that I could where I was, and I gave them the opportunity, and I gave them the choice to not fix things. And when you give people the power of choice, that's the most powerful gift that you can give somebody. Give them a choice. That's very powerful, because now you're giving them a chance to change their story. You're giving them a chance to choose their own outcome, as opposed to force them on this path because they couldn't get off of it. When you give people the power of choice, you're empowering them.
Yeah, definitely. I did want to show this video, and then I will. I got a comment that came in that definitely resonates tonight.
Hold on. Secret mother, a grandfather she had never met, and a family history that she never suspected. Gail Lukasik could not have predicted what she would discover when she decided to dig into her mother's mysterious past.
Y'all not gonna believe this. I did not believe
This is
it.
my mom and dad. And as far as I know, my father went to his grave never knowing my mom's secret. My parents met during World War II. My mom was an absolutely stunningly beautiful woman. My dad, he had a great sense of humor. He served in the Pacific. He was very proud of that.
In 1944, after the war, Harold Kalina married Alvera Frederick. They settled in a working-class neighborhood in Parma, Ohio. In 1946, their daughter Gail was born. Throughout her childhood, Gail says her mother mystified her in some ways.
She was very meticulous about her makeup. She would wear a light foundation makeup to bed at night, which I thought was a little strange. She would never go out in the sun unless she had a wide brim hat. She would cover her hands with gloves. Really didn't like to be in the sun.
But Gail says the biggest mystery was her mother's selective memory when talking about her own father, Azimar Frederick.
I said, Mom, when was he born? When did he die? Oh, I don't know. I can't remember.
Growing up, Gail never saw one photo of her grandfather. Finally, in 1995, when she was 48, she decided to search for his identity, combing through microfilm.
At first, I couldn't find him. Then I put in the 1900 Louisiana census records, and suddenly I see the name Azimar Frederick.
Here it goes.
Frederick's in the same household.
Mm-hmm.
Then I noticed something else very curious. Next to all their names is the letter B.
Mm-hmm.
So go to the head of that column to see what it stands for, and it says race. So B, does that mean black?
Gail wanted to confront her mother, but first she reached out to the state of Louisiana, requesting her mother's birth certificate.
I pretended I was my mother and that I'd lost my birth certificate. I opened that birth certificate, and there in parentheses were 3 letters, COL. So I wrote to the state again and said, my birth certificate said COL, which Lord, what that means. They sent me a very official letter back, and they said, COL is for colored.
You're one of us.
I just was speechless.
You're one of the
I didn't
elites.
know if my mother knew, but I'm thinking, how could she not know this? And why has she never said anything to me?
Lord.
We're joined now by Gail Lukasik, who has written about her mother's secret past in a new book, White Like Her. Welcome, Gail.
Thank you very much.
Great to see you here. So, You did finally work up the nerve to ask your mother about this birth certificate. It took you 2 years, but you finally sat down with her. You knew it had to be face to face.
Yes, it had to be. This is not a conversation you have on the telephone.
Oh, no, ma'am.
Yeah.
And you asked her why she's listed as, quote, colored on the birth certificate.
I did. I told her I found her birth certificate. It said colored. And she became very indignant with me. And she said, I don't know what birth certificate you have, but mine says I'm white. So I thought, well, wait a minute. So I said, Mom, I have some other documents that I could show you. The census records, your father's listed as black. And I have a letter from the state of Louisiana saying that COL means colored. Well, she got very quiet, very quiet. And she's sitting in this large chair, and it almost seemed like the chair was swallowing her because she got very small. And she looked at me and she said, you have to promise me you will never tell anyone until after I die.
Because what in the world? That was in 1997. That lady said, All
right. So I saved that video because you mentioned that the 87-year-old woman went and corrected what she needed to correct for her daughter, so that way, her daughter could have closure. And here it is, this woman is denying everything, and her daughter went and got all the receipts, and she's like, finally, she's like, all right, you got all the receipts now, but please just wait till I die, so you don't tell nobody until after I die. It just says a lot, you know what I'm saying? And I think it was at that moment the mother should have gave or left a lot of information for the father, because I'm pretty sure she knows or seems some kind of connection that she has still with the family that she probably didn't want to tell nobody. But I think it's for the daughter's sake, that's extended family members that she could, basically get to know. There's cousins and, other people out there that she could get to know, so I was like, it's very sad that, a lot of people don't want to correct their behavior at such a late stage in their lives. They want to take a lot of stuff to the grave. But like you say, it's very problematic for the children, and for a child to go through that and having to pretend that they were you in order to get some government documents just to prove or find out about, their grandfather, which every child would love to know who their grandparents are, to go through that extent and go through that. That was just crazy to me. I did have a comment here as well, and then I'll let you go ahead and talk about both. So working in my field, I've seen mothers who are jealous or are in competition with their young daughters, especially if they felt the fathers were too attentive or overprotective towards them, and the mothers abused them mentally and or physically. This has caused the young girls to act out, and the cycle of abuse continues. So again, like the Black woman that I showed the video earlier, that she was talking about how, you taking these orders from your mother or your parents that are narcissists, you over the years are adapting to a narcissist. So that's why you are able to connect with a narcissist, because you're feeling the love and the care and the protection from a narcissist, your parents. So it's easy for you to go to another narcissist because you're sitting back and idolizing that same protection and care in the same realms of mistreatment, abuse, physically or mentally, and you think that's how somebody who loves you is supposed to interact with you. And I've had women before that told me that, hey, you don't argue with me, you don't try to rough me up, or you don't do nothing, that means you don't love me. And at that moment, I had to pause and be like, yo, that's a scary feeling for me, because as a man, that puts you in a very vulnerable situation. Because
Yep.
now if I have to pretend to do that to make you feel comfortable, then that could flip out on me in a different way, meaning that one day you might call the police and I'm already involved in those type of activities. I'm already recorded as those type of activities. And not only that, maybe I might get away with that with you, but because I program myself so much, when I go to the next woman after you and I'm doing this to her, she doesn't appreciate that, and that causes me to go to jail. Or family members, it might escalate to where somebody end up dying, maybe me, you know? So it's very dangerous for when people think that abusive and toxic love is love because they got it from the first hand, which was their parents. And then, you know, it goes and conditions into their relationship, and you get demonized for not acting toxic as the behaviors that they so accustomed to. And when you're too healthy, that's when you get a lot of women that will say, I don't think this is going to work for me because I'm not feeling the love that I see through my eyes of how I was growing up. And I'll turn it over to you and leave it to you to carry on.
No, that's all the way 100. And people will typically associate that kind of behavior with step parents, right? And that would make sense because this step parent or this your father or your mother's significant other doesn't have any ties or connection to you. But that definitely can happen with biological parents as well.
Yeah.
And usually that's a case of, and again, because we're talking about cycles, right? That usually happens because when they were growing up, they experienced that. So they went ahead and they revisited that same trauma that they received as a child onto their child in the future now. So when you become a parent, right? It doesn't matter if you plan to have your children or your children just happened, you just were doing whatever and the children came into the picture. At that point, to a large extent, your life is supposed to stop so that your children's lives can begin. And I don't mean, when I say that, I don't mean that, you know, you just give up on existing or living. Everything's supposed to be about your children nonstop. You don't live or have a life. I'm not saying that. But what I mean is everything that you do going forward is supposed to be the benefit of your children. Every single parent, no matter the age, should have it on their agenda to go and see a therapist. Why do I say that? Because you need to be making sure that you don't have any unresolved trauma and issues that you're dumping into your children accidentally. Because, for example, I'm pretty sure in most cases, if you have a mother or father who's jealous of their child because of the love and care they're receiving from their significant, from their mother or the father, whatever, in most cases, I'm pretty sure that the connection will never be made. I feel this way about my child because of how I was treated as a child by my parents. Because someone on the outside looking in may be able to see that and recognize that right away. But you in the eye of the storm, you can't, you know, you don't know what that looks like or feels like from the outside looking in or whatever.
Correct.
So you have no idea what you're doing. You just know you feel this way and you can't quite put your finger on it. You may even know that it's wrong and you shouldn't have that kind of feeling or think those kind of thoughts. You might even feel guilty about it. But feeling guilty and feeling bad about something isn't enough. You need to understand why it's happening. And then once you understand the why, then you can start working on fixing it. And that's what therapy will do for you. That was very powerful.
I'm glad you said that because I want people to understand that you're getting an unbiased opinion from somebody who's a mediator who's looking at it from your children's side and looking at it from your side. So you're going to get pointers to fix yourself, and you're also going to get pointers for your children to fix themselves, which is a better way because you're, as a parent, always telling your children things. They already have a blockage to what they want to hear and what they will take advice from you. But when it's somebody that has no ties to them and is telling them some good information, they would take heed to that and know what they're doing is wrong and correct it. And you also get to see the therapist point out what they are saying that your parents are wrong at. And you may agree and seen it and told your parents that, and they didn't realize that. But now you got this unbiased person who now brings both of you guys together to curate a healthy atmosphere, because now you guys get to see that both of you guys are the problems. And here's all the activities and the work that you guys need to put in to get this thing done and resolved. So I just want to add that in. But go ahead, continue.
Right. Because because it's not just the opinion, but also they have the training. If they're experienced, they've seen this, they've done this with other people, so they know things to look for. They know certain buzzwords or certain things that jump out right away, so they can ask certain questions. And arguably the most important part is because they don't have that connection to you like that, they're free to tell you the truth.
Correct.
You know, it's not often that you're going to have people in your life that you're close with who are going to have hard conversations with you like that, because they don't want to, they're afraid of hurting your feelings. They don't want to piss you off, or, well, you know, I know every time I try and tell you something, you start a fight or you start cussing, whatever. I don't want to deal with all that. This person don't care about none of that.
Correct.
They're just trying to help. And because they don't have to spend the night with you, they don't have to depend on you for a check, whatever. You can't, I mean, you can fire them, but it's not like you're their boss and they're not going to be able to eat or feed themselves if you sever your services or whatever. They're free to tell you the truth. And if you don't like it, you can always leave. No skin off their back. They got an appointment right after you. It's all good. But if you choose to sit and listen, you can grow and branch out from that. And they have that freedom to just keep it real with you and keep it raw with you like that. So that's very important to do. I thought it was very powerful from the first video that we showed. That brother was talking about that he mentioned that he himself has been diagnosed as a narcissist.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he said what led to that, but he said that he has children now and he goes to therapy.
Correct.
So I thought that was very huge. That's amazingly brave of him and courageous to see the need. I recognize him a certain way. Let me go get some help for this. And now he's able to get some tools to not just manage himself, but where he can be the best father he can be for his children. He doesn't have to worry about his narcissism getting in the way and impacting his family in a negative way. He has someone that's able to give him tools, show him his weak spots, show him his strengths, and help him work through that and navigate that. And what's even dope outside of all that is he has a YouTube channel where he's now giving game and insight. He's sharing his own experiences and what he's learning in therapy now. So now he's using himself to be a teaching tool and a helping tool for other people out there. That's an amazing legacy to leave behind. That's an amazing example he's setting for his own children in both ways, in terms of being able to manage your own shit. But it's also an amazing example of how he's showing his children how to go ahead and how to be of service to other people. So that's the kind of thing that you need to be on when you say, I'm going to be a parent, I'm going to be a leader, you know, because we all have issues that we got on our plate. Every single one of us. Some people have more than others, some less, but we all got shit on our plate. And at the end of the day, no one really wants to hear your excuses, right? You know, your children are suffering because of your issues or whatever. Yeah, they may understand, but that's not going to stop them from hurting any less. So it's your obligation to manage yourself the best way that you can, so that you can be present, so you can be the best leader, the best parent that you can for your family.
Exactly. And it also shows that it's never too late to change.
It's never too late. It's too late to change the day you die.
Exactly.
Or the people that you're doing it for when they're no longer alive. When you're dead, that's when it's too late. But as long as you have life, you have the opportunity to change. And that's what's the beautiful part about life. As long as you keep on living, you have the opportunity.
Correct. I just want to show these couple of videos, and then we can get into some healthy ways to change and not be a competitive parent. All right, so I'll show these 3 videos real quick on the topic, and let's go. All right, first video up is this.
The mother can be jealous of the relationship of the father and the child. If the father's showing the child more attention, or he's loving on the child, or better, so to speak, than he was loving on her or treated her. Because who's to say how the child came about?
Right.
You know what I mean?
All right, and then
It's as if they are competing against you. Well, they are competing against you. So they are going to be like frightfully jealous normally of you and any kind of achievement that you have. They're going to particularly become jealous when you start moving into your adulthood. So when you hit those teen years, that's when they are really going to put you down. Toxic mothers will put down girls incredibly about their looks. They'll talk about their weight. They actually won't want you to be successful in anything that you do. So they're actually going to put you down. They're going to try and put you back in a box and make sure that you don't come out of that box. Because if you do, then it makes them not feel very good about themselves. You have to remember, ultimately, these toxic parents are, they see themselves as the center of the universe. And so that jealousy will start, well, it'll be there the whole time, but it'll start strongly in your teenage years, and then it will.
all right, and then the last one here.
Mothers are extremely jealous of their children and oftentimes their daughters. If your mother can't stand you, it is absolutely because you have all of the qualities that she does not, likely including empathy, emotional intelligence, that you are kind and caring and supportive of other people. And she does not have those qualities, so she very likely resents you for it. And narcissists get worse with age. So as you're moving through your life and as you are having your own personal successes and your, independence as an adult yourself, they are going to get worse and worse if you decide to stay in contact with them. With narcissistic mothers in particular, I highly recommend extremely low contact or no contact, just cutting them out. They love to make your life miserable.
All right, so I'm just going to show this video because it leads into what we're about to exit out with, which is understanding yourself and revitalizing yourself. All right.
What was that flip of the switch moment that permanently changed your life or perspective?
It was my first day in therapy, and my therapist said, "You seem really well adjusted for someone who's never gone to therapy. Why are you here?" And I said, "I'm a good husband, I'm a good father, I'm a good friend, I'm a good employee, but I want to be great at all those things, and I feel like if I could be great at those by myself, I would have been by now, so I'm getting help." And she said, "Employee is someone you are for your job, husband is someone you are for your wife, father is someone you are for your son, and friend is someone you are for your friends. Who are you for yourself? Who are you outside of those roles?" And then the waterworks happened, and I heard myself say, "I'm not sure there's much of a person at the end of all that." And that was the beginning of me figuring out who I was.
All right, and I think that shows that sometimes with men and women, when we put so much on our plate, when we have so much we endure, we're trying to be the best that we can be, and a lot of times that is due to us trying to prove to our parents that they are a great production, like you stated earlier, Bobby, about we want to show them that giving us life wasn't a waste. It was something that is very productive and something you should hold your head high to, because this is what I'm doing. And in the process of that, we put so much emphasis on people, on what they can provide and what can they do, more than showing empathy as far as love. Do you love yourself? Am I providing enough healthiness inside of you so that way you don't search to find your worth in other things? Like he was saying, I want to be the best this and the best that and the best that. And the therapist is like, yeah, but outside of all of that, what are you doing for you? And a lot of times we get lost in the mix because everybody pretty much tries to, be that person for somebody else. And that's sometimes we get caught up in being there for everybody, that we don't be there for ourselves. And then when we don't be there for ourselves, there's other people that don't be there for us as well. But you got to make sure that you are giving yourself some water before pouring out all the water into somebody else. Because you do that and you don't have no water for yourself, you die out and everybody else is living. And a lot of times that's what happens. We have a lot of people that are walking around with soulless life, meaning they don't have no purpose, they don't have no drive, they don't know what's going on. And when you are operating in that energy and space, it becomes very problematic inside the household, and it also becomes very problematic for your children as well. So I wanted to just highlight that and send it over to you, Bobby.
No, yeah, we it's important to get your why, right? When you do things. Because the why is that's the foundation, that's the cornerstone of everything that you do. So it's important that you don't lose sight of that. And typically we get our why from our parents, right? We get that encouragement, we get that motivation from our parents when they pour into us, and we realize that even though we want to achieve, we want to do things and make things happen, right? That those things don't make us. And that's an issue that we have that bleeds in everywhere, even in our relationships, where, you know, we're meeting people and we lead with things like our accomplishments or our job titles or whatever. And it's cool that we have those things. That's great. But that's not who you are. You know, you can lose your job tomorrow, right? You can get divorced. God forbid your children could pass away. All these different things that you use to describe yourself, they can fade away. But it's important to know who you are outside of that, right? And it's very important that you're able to do that. And you can only do that when you spend time with yourself, when you actually get comfortable with yourself. But the problem is, a lot of us really don't like ourselves. We really don't like ourselves. We're not comfortable with ourselves. We always have to be around noise. We don't like staying in. We always have to keep a crowd around us. Or we're always doing things. We're always getting drunk or high or whatever. Or you having sex or whatever coping mechanisms. We're always doing something to try and block out that time that we can spend with ourselves. Because a lot of us are uncomfortable or afraid of what we're going to find if we spend time with ourselves.
Correct.
And that's a huge self-esteem issue. But again, it goes way back to our childhoods. Our parents are the foundation of our self-esteem.
Correct.
When we pour into our children, when we love them, when we show them we love them unconditionally, we support them, we're there for them when they skin their knees, when they get their first bad grades, when a little boy or little girl breaks the heart or crushes the heart or whatever. When we show them that we're there for them early, now we've always got their back, and that you're valuable and I love you, and you're loved because you're my son, because you're God's child, or whatever it is that you pour into your children, that's what's going to carry them later on in life, and that's what's going to allow them to be comfortable spending time with themselves, because they realize, I've been affirmed, I have worth. My mom loves me, my dad loves me. Nobody else got me in this life. I know my mama got me. My daddy got me. And that's powerful to be able to say, and that's something that you can take with you your whole life. But if from early in the game, you never got that, or worse, you got the opposite, where you had your parents basically making you feel like you're an enemy, you're worthless, you don't have any value, you just happen to dodge the coat hanger, so to speak, whatever. It's going to be very difficult to do that work and to find something about yourself that you genuinely like. And we have a lot of people that live that kind of lifestyle now. And in that guy's case, he happens to do all those things, and he's trying to, like he said, use that to create identity for himself, even though it's not who he is. But at least that's on the positive side of the fence. We have a lot more people, I think, on the opposite side of the fence who they feel worthless, they don't value themselves, and they try to take that out on other people. So they're always starting fights. They're killing people. They're having they're volunteering to be side chicks or side dudes, whatever, because they want to tear up happy homes or whatever. they're trying to do in their own way whatever they can to make other people feel as miserable as they feel.
Yeah.
So that's another area that most people wouldn't think of when it comes to this topic and this situation. But there's a lot of ripples that can be generated all because a person doesn't feel good about themselves.
Correct.
So I'm going to keep stressing it. We have to be very intentional about the adults that we're raising. And that's something, if nothing else, I want people to take away from this, the idea that when you become a parent, you're not raising children, you're raising adults. So don't look at it as I'm taking care of my little 3-year-old, my 4-year-old. Don't look at it from that perspective. Look at it like I have an adult right in front of me.
Correct.
What do I want to give them that I would want to see in them as an adult person? This person might be 3 years old now, 6 years old now. What do I want to see out of this person when they're 30 years old, when they're 60 years old? And then
Correct.
you start putting that in them from early.
Correct. I think a lot of people, I've talked about this plenty of times on here. People don't understand your critical stages for your child is between in the womb all the way up to 13. Those are the years that you mold them. Those are the years that you input as much information as you can with your child. Those are the years that you instill in them all the basic great practices that you need them to be on. And once you establish something great between the womb to 13, they end up, the success rate of them being a phenomenal person in society as well for themselves is very high, opposed to you just, letting them do whatever they want. Then when they get to 13, that's when you want to start implementing rules. And by that time, they're already conditioned into their bad behavior and their toxic traits that they picked up, not only from their friends, but also from you in the main household as well. So you got to be very conscious about that and making sure that you're putting your children in the best position possible. All right. So with that being said, I did want to show a couple of these things before we get up out of here. The first one is this meme. We should be concerned about PA because it creates poor self-esteem, depression, and other mental health problems in the child. The child grows up feeling unloved and unworthy of love, even if they accept that alienator has saved them, which can lead to many problems forming healthy relationships as an adult. It robs the child from the love and the attention of a parent who is interested in being part of their life and potentially relationships with siblings, grandparents, etc. Should the child learn the truth, PA often backfires in the face of an alienator, destroying the relationship, yet the child discovers there's no one they can trust and their whole life was a lie. All right, and that's by Audrey Cade. And I want to get to this next one, which is when you want to share something exciting, a narcissistic parent will not share your happiness or excitement. They will instead feel jealous. This can even lead them to sabotage. All right. Now, at the end of the night, this is what we want to give you some solutions to, right? How to become less jealous, all right?
Yes.
All right. So first, understand the root cause of your jealousy. If you tend to be jealous, it's likely that you have anxiety attached style, which it's an obnoxious type.
And anxious. My bad.
Oh, an anxious attachment style. Jesus Christ, boy. Which probably developed in early years of your childhood as a result of the parents' inconsistency of meeting your emotional needs. All right. Let me clear this off real quick. All right. The next one up is connecting the dots on how your past has shaped your relationship as an adult will help you better understand and ultimately overcome your jealous tendencies. All right. 2, take stock on how jealousy impacts your relationship. You want to understand in what kind of situations your jealousy is most triggered, how you show up when you're feeling jealous, and how exactly this impacts your relationship. Most likely, what you'll find is that your jealousy affects your relationship in many more ways than you initially thought. And you'll probably also notice the effects of your jealousy are always detrimental to your relationship. The more you try to put your partner in a cage, the more he tries to escape. It's a vicious cycle. 3, change how you show up. Once you have enough awareness around you, why you're why are you why are you jealous? Why you are jealous in the first place, and how it impacts your relationship. It's time to show up differently. Decide ahead of time how you want to react the next time your jealousy gets triggered. And last but not least, do you want to yell at your partner, or do you want to be vulnerable and tell them about your struggles without asking them to change their behavior? Do you want to punish your partner, or do you want to write down your thoughts before acting on them? Do you want to try to make your partner jealous, or do you want to process your feelings? You get to decide. All right. And that's all we have for you tonight. Turn it over to you, Bobby, and you can give us your final thoughts.
No, that's amazing advice, an amazing game. The truth is, I'm very much a cynical person, but I do still have some optimism left in me. And out of those crumbs of optimism that I do have, I would like to believe that the vast majority of people who are jealous of their children aren't that way because they want to be jealous, because they're evil, wicked, nasty people. I'd like to believe those people simply are victims themselves, either of jealousy or of other traumatic events from childhood or whatever. And because they haven't done that work, because they haven't done the digging, the due diligence, they're now doing what sick people do, and they're now making other people sick. So they out here vomiting, and because they're still sick, they're vomiting on their children, and the children are the ones catching it. Because typically, just like when you are sick for real, it's usually the people in your household that catch it first, because we hurt the people who are around us most often. So it's important that when you recognize something is off, don't try and just dismiss it or brush it off or push it to the side or whatever. Take that opportunity, take that little warning sign and say, you know what, let me dig deeper and investigate this and do the self-work. It can be scary, it can be tough. You know, it's hard to take a look in the mirror and really do that kind of work, because you're going to see some horrible things. You might have to confront some things, like the way you were raised. You might have to change maybe the way you see your parents. Maybe your parents weren't as good as you thought they were. Maybe certain things that you lied and told yourself about for years isn't true, and you have to unpack that. It can be a very frightening process, a very unsettling process. You can even feel lost. That's one of the reasons why this work, to be done properly, you need to go ahead and see a therapist. There's no shortcuts. If you're going to do the work, do the work. Don't waste your own time. Don't poke the bear, so to speak, and just cause that discomfort and that pain for no reason. And you're not even doing it right. You know, if you got a Band-Aid on your skin, right, you try to take it off, you try to inch it off, it's going to hurt like hell. And if you keep up that pace, eventually you're not going to want to do it anymore. You're going to figure out, well, you know what, it hurts too much. It's too much of a bother. Let me just leave it as is. But if you go and do it the first time, give it that one good rip, yeah, it's going to hurt like a mofo, but you've gotten the worst of it done. Even if it hurts after, it's not going to be as severe as it was when you were just trying to inch it off. So go see someone who can assist you, that can take a deep inside look. And like that guy shared who said that he went and he had that deep dive. You may think that you're good, but there might be some holes that you're not even aware of that won't look good to the naked eye. Because like the therapist said, okay, so you told me how you show up as a husband, as a father, as a friend, as an employee, all those things, but who were you actually?
Yeah.
And he thought he was good coming. He's like, yeah, I do all this. Yeah, I checked off the list. Then he's like, okay, I hear all that. But who he was a person.
Yeah.
And not only did he realize that, damn, I don't know, but whatever it was that he was dealing with, it unlocked something. He started crying, realizing that there's emptiness there.
Yep.
So it's possible to feel like you're good. And it's like, no, there's still some things that aren't quite fixed. But if you go to the right person, you can get that sorted out. And then you can truly be your best self. So it all starts at the end of the day with self-improvement. Do you want to become a better person? Because if you don't, nothing can be done for you. All the issues you got, it's going to be what it is. But if you have a mindset that says, you know what, I want to be better today than I was yesterday. I want to be better tomorrow than I am today. If you're constantly looking for self-improvement, you're going to get with those kind of steps. You're going to do those things. You're going to do the self-work, and you're going to invest in yourself. And that's the best investment that you can make. You're going to get more returns from investing in yourself than if you would invest in real estate, the stock market, a brand new business, a brand new project. The best project that you can invest is in the project of you. The best real estate you can invest in is your estate. The best business you can invest in is the business of you. Treat yourself like a business, invest in that, and no matter what happens, you're going to always get a positive return.
Correct.
There has never been a person in history that has invested in themselves and done the work and walked away like, damn, that was a waste of time. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You will always leave with a guaranteed better result. And there's few things in this world that are always going to give you a 100% success rate. That's one of them. So when you find those things, you do those things so you can benefit first and foremost, and then everybody and everything around you is going to benefit as a result of that.
Well said. Well said. All right. So that's our show for tonight. Thanks, Bobby, for bringing up a great topic. I know everybody's pretty much hit me up saying they loved this show tonight. They didn't think we was going to do such a great job because, you know, how people view us as childless mentors and educators. But at the end of the day, we both have experience with children. It might not be the direct form as a parent, but, you know, we hear the stories, we see it from being a child ourselves, also interacting as stepfathers or uncles, or, you know, just filling the gap for other people. We get to see it a lot of times. We get to see the toxicity. We get to see the healthy side as well. So thank you for everybody that really appreciated this show. We try to do our best to give you the best information out there, and to make sure that it's something of substance and not something we just throwing together and just force feeding it to you. You know, that's not something we want to do. Even though we came up with this topic last minute, you know, because we were gonna just probably call this week off. You know, Major is out doing something. He wasn't with us tonight, so shout out to Major and his wife. But we thought about, you know, maybe not doing a show tonight, and I asked Bobby, I said, you know, what do you want to do? And he was like, yo, let's talk about this tonight. I think it's very impactful and something we need to talk about, an elephant in the room that nobody really addresses like that. So we end up doing that, and I think he did a phenomenal job getting all the videos and information together, and the information that he knew, and put it all together for you guys. And we appreciate y'all, you know. So definitely check us out next week for another great show. And we'll see Major back on the platform with us. You know, as you guys know, we hold it down, man. One person goes, we still hold it down for them. So we spit information like it's 3 people on here all the time, yo.
The whole team strong. Whole team
exactly,
strong.
the whole team strong. So we got Major on the back. You know what I'm saying? So we carried him tonight. All right. So with that being said, we love everybody. Keep telling a friend to tell a friend. Like, share, subscribe. Always give us information and feedback, as well as if you guys got topics or you want to hear us talk about something or questions, send them to us, manversations2020@gmail.com, or if you follow us on our social media platforms, inbox us. All right. And the Manversation page is on IG as well. You can inbox us there as well. All right. Love y'all, fam. Y'all be easy. Y'all be safe.
Sure.
Peace.
Manversation. Man up. Manversation. Man up. Manversation. Man up. Manversation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manversation. Man up. Manversation. Man up. Manversation. Man up.
A place where we inform.
Manversation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
You gotta eat what you kill. You gotta go out there, you gotta hunt for your meals.
We all have that ability to connect with people, to be that motivational person in somebody's life.
You gotta let people know there's certain lines you don't cross, and that there's gonna be consequences if you do.
Man up.
If you are an adult and you are in a relationship, that person's emotions are not your responsibility.
Man up. Manversation. Man up. Manversation. Man up. Manversation.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
The devil, during slavery, destroyed the masculinity or manhood of the so-called Negro. No man. No man. Right now you got to be trained all over again to be a man.
When someone is obligated to do something, it is binding upon them to do it. And failure to do it causes reaction.
Man up.
Hustle shall make you rich. I don't have that type of richness. My richness is life forever.
If that people knew that glorious path, if that people knew that glorious path, if that people knew that glorious path, then they would be more inclined to respect themselves.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us.
A place where we inform, build, and inspire.
Manversation. Man up. Manversation. Man up.